Good afternoon. Thanks for being here. I'd like to acknowledge my colleague Angela Conley, who's also here with us this morning. The Board of Supervisors made some news. We engaged in, I think, what is a pretty pivotal piece of work today, ending the funding for the CISRA report with the last $90,000 appropriation and investing that $90,000 along with $110,000 from the general fund, which came from the ARPA funds, to invest in water quality work that is occurring as a result of the work that has occurred at the University of Iowa Flood Center. And this is really critical because what is happening in our corridors in both the Raccoon River watershed as well as the Des Moines river watershed is we've employed sensors through the University of Iowa that measure a lot of the flow of the river, but also the nitrate levels in the water, as well as the health and quality of the water. So that gives us an understanding over the past 10 years of what's happening in our water. And is our water getting better or is it getting worse? So this work really began at the Flood Center 10 years ago, but the Flood Center was actually established in 2008 following the Eastern Iowa floods, which actually caused billions of dollars in property damages on the University of Iowa campus as well as the Cedar Rapids, the whole Cedar Rapids corridor. And so what we've learned about the work of the Flood Center is it's vital in early detection and prevention. So they do a lot of modeling and a lot of forecasting to try to understand what we as local officials need to prepare for in the way of flooding. What we know about flooding is that it will continue to be a problem for the state of Iowa. And because of the way our rivers are configured, we don't know when that will happen, but we will see the impacts of 100 years and 500-year floods, and it will have impacts on our property damages. So again, supporting this important work is vital to the state of Iowa, and making sure that Polk County is leading in this effort and addressing issues of water quality is an important part of our job as local elected officials. So I'm delighted that the board voted unanimously to support this funding. I'm also pleased that we've completed the CISRA water report, which has been the most extensive, unbiased report of the top researchers in the country that have come together and looked at the quality and health of our surface drinking water. And I think analyzed that we have real challenges as a state and as a community that need to be addressed. These experienced researchers have made a huge commitment to this report, and this report has been extensively shared with the community and is available through our website to be downloaded as well. The final thing that I want to talk about is some of the efforts that Polk County has been engaged in water quality. And with me today is John Swanson, who is going to talk a little bit about the work of our water resources team and what we expect to be doing not only this year, but in all the years to come to improve the quality of our water in Polk County. John?
Yes, again, I'm John Swanson, the Water Resources Supervisor here at Polk County. And the reality is water is very important to Polk County. It's been very important to us for a lot of years, and we're uniquely set up to tackle a lot of our water resources issues because we actually have a division of conservationists that I get to lead who do nothing but go out and try and figure out how are we going to improve water in Polk County and across Iowa. And when I say improve water, that includes improving water on our city streets. We work with all the cities of the Des Moines Metro. It includes working with the homeowners who live in the Des Moines Metro and our urban areas, and how do we work in their front yards and backyards to improve water quality? How do we educate people? It includes going out and working with farmers, and we're very proud that we do a lot of partnerships with farmers. We go out and we have a targeted wetland program we call the Wetland Wave. A wetland, very important to us because it can solve many of our water issues. It can improve water quality, it can reduce flooding, it can even bring back habitat for a lot of the animals that need to have space on our landscape. But as we go out and we work with these farmers and we work with these cities and we work with these homeowners, we also know that we need to educate them. So we want to go out and we want to build stuff, and we're building hundreds of projects. We're putting thousands of acres of cover crops out there, hundreds of saturated buffers and bioreactors, and dozens of wetlands. But to do that, we have to educate people. And most recently with this Central Iowa Source Water Research Assessment, the CISRA report, it also brought in that we need to use science to our advantage. And this effort that, after several years of work, bringing research together and looking at what does all the science tell us, it tells us the one thing that stuck out to me is we need to keep monitoring. We need to keep looking at the data, keep using that data to say where can we be most efficient with our projects? How can we, as one county in central Iowa with a lot of water coming to us, how can we help solve these issues? And that is really sitting here today. This is an opportunity for us to invest and keep that monitoring system going for at least another year, keep those systems out there that are telling us data, keep tracking, figuring out how can we keep investing, how can we get more projects on the ground. And while all this is happening, the team here at Polk County that is supported by the Board of Supervisors is going to we're out there every day working with everybody to put projects on the ground to make a difference, improve water quality, and reduce flooding. And while we've been doing that for the last few years, somebody who's been around a department that's been doing it even much longer, and it provides a whole other unique side of things, is Rich Leopold, the director of our Polk County Conservation. He's going to share a few words about how our conservation department is also involved in these strategies and efforts.
Thank you, John. I don't know about much longer, but no. My name is Richard Leopold. I'm the director for Polk County Conservation. And yeah, in support of everything that the Board of Supervisors just passed this morning going forward with the Iowa Flood Center funding. My side of it is more the science side, the data side. And as a scientist and working with scientists within conservation, we look at streams of data as you have to have long periods of data to have relevance and be able to determine things. So say, for example, the last couple of years before this year, we had 2 or 3 years of drought, and then we've had a rainy early summer, and then it's been drier later on. So there is no normal, right? If you want to find a trend, you have to look 5, 10, 15 years out. And so the IIHR program has been going, I believe, 9, 10 years now. And it's the continuity of the data that is so important. We can't have interruptions or it all falls apart. John identified a few reasons why we look at this data. One is to see if our practices are working. So we're investing time, energy, and money in all these practices, and we want to make sure that if we're doing something to make things improve, are things improving? To do that, you have to monitor, you have to measure. On the opposite side of that, if we're making land use changes that we believe might be detrimental to public health or ecology or what it is, we need to have long periods of data to figure that out. So a lot of our function has been looking at data long term. We've been collecting data at Polk County Conservation for about 10 years, but it's a lesser type program. It isn't a laboratory type program. And there's lots of different needs for this data. So we have, the Icon Water Trails, which is having tremendous success so far. And when you look at data, we're thinking about public health. You have Des Moines Waterworks that has a need for data that has to do with nitrate and different things like that with the water for public drinking water sources. You have ecological concerns. So we have, fishermen and the things that live in the streams and riparian areas. And then as Supervisor McCoy also mentioned, we have flooding potentials, right? So as the climate continues to shift, we have seen flooding, a lot of it here in the Des Moines Metro over the last 20 years. It's not gone. It's one of those things that when it's not flooding, you forget about it really quickly. But our data lends itself to predicting and to be able to react appropriately when there are flooding potentials to move people out of harm's way, to protect property, and maybe even more importantly, to build better as we go forward. So as we look as a metro area in our development and management patterns, data helps drive those thought processes.
Questions or?
Yeah, Rich, can you talk a little bit about the monitoring, because I think most lake people don't understand, but all they care about is the water comes out of the tap.
Right.
Last summer, that all changed. So we all learned about monitoring nitrates. How important is it to fund these monitors to make sure to keep an eye on this nitrate?
So the question had to do with the monitoring and its relevance to nitrate as it became important for drinking water this last year. And as, of course, you have Des Moines Waterworks, Central Iowa Waterworks, that is responsible for, 600,000 people's drinking water. It's very important that we keep our eyes on that. And not so much just the treatment of it, which we're concerned about, because then you turn the tap on, you fill it up, and you take a glass of water. But the expense and the planning for that. So if we're making efforts as a state or as a region to improve water quality, cost-benefit analysis, is it working? You know, Jonathan is really involved in wetland creation and stream buffers and bioremediation, all these different things, and they are having effects, but it's going to take data streams to show that those things that we're doing are working for nitrate.
Yeah. Yes, so the actual project is funded through 2026, through June of 2026, and then our funding will kick in June of 2026, and we hope it will be ongoing. Let me just say on the funding, we are, Larry Weber, the head of the Iowa Flood Center, will be asking a very similar thing that Polk County has been asked to do of Lynn County and Johnson County. And so assuming that funding continues, he'll generate about $600,000 a year, which will maintain these 60 sensors throughout the state of Iowa. And so it's really important that Polk County lead on this so that our colleagues in both Johnson County and Lynn County will also join in this effort to keep this program alive and keep this research ongoing at the University of Iowa.
Some question, how important is public safety? That seems to be the bottom line here, right, for all of this.
Absolutely. Public safety is at the forefront of all of this testing and all of this knowledge that's being collected and all of these data sets. And obviously, you know, the research is indicating that our drinking water impacts our overall health as human beings, and because of some of the changing cancer statistics that have put Iowa in the forefront of the cancer discussion, a lot of people are asking questions that require the types of data that's being collected by the University of Iowa and elsewhere from a public health standpoint. So we have seen we've seen cuts at the federal as well as the state level that have impacted our ability to fully fund the research that is vital to public health. And while I personally would like to see the state and federal government play a big role in helping us fund these data sets, unfortunately, they've made decisions at the legislative and at the federal level to not do that. And so as a county of more than 600,000 people that rely upon safe, clean drinking water, I think we have an obligation as county government to make sure that we're ensuring that the water that our residents are drinking is protected. So I think that's our role, and I think this is an appropriate allocation of resources. But to your point, I'd like to see federal and state funding for this, or at least some type of partnership going forward, because this is vital work. and what the University of Iowa is putting out is world-renowned. The research that they're collecting and have been working on at the Iowa Flood Center is amazing work, and I think we benefit as a state greatly by having the Iowa Flood Center in place and fully funding it. There's been a lot of national discussions about NOAA and some of the cuts to weather forecasting and the impact that that has on the country as we monitor natural disasters. I think for forecasting and modeling and protecting human beings, we have an obligation as government to fund these programs.
My understanding is that this wasn't the original part of the system budget. Was this original? Was that $90,000 that originally part of a different area, which no better not?
So it was, after we paid all the bills and closed out the report, we had 90,000 unspent in the Cicero report. We wanted to allocate it to a good use, and we decided there isn't a better use than collecting this data and funding the sensor project in the state of Iowa and supporting the University of Iowa's Flood Center and giving us this data that we use, that we rely on, that Des Moines Water Works relies on, and that is going to be helpful to us in the future. And I think probably until there is another source of funding, you'll probably see local communities being asked to fund this research for our protection and well-being of our residents.
I just have a question as well. If the other counties don't step up, will the Polk County funding go to fund the watershed, or is that consideration?
We will cross that bridge when we come to it. At this point, there's potential that that the sensors in and around Polk County could be funded with our funds, but I think ideally this is a system, and as Rich pointed out, the richness of scientific data is a prolonged period of time, a data set that's uninterrupted. If you interrupt a data set, you devalue and degrade the value of the research, and that's something we don't want to do. So we want to make sure this gets funded, and I will bet these other communities will see the value as well.
As far as not disrupting, so it hasn't been disrupted at all over
Correct.
the years, but you lost federal and state funding in the last few years?
Yes.
So the Polk County that stepped in then?
We're stepping in. The funding is actually set to expire in June of 2026, so it has not been interrupted yet. And we want to prevent the interruption, so we're stepping in to fund from 2026, June of 2026 forward.
So that was state and federal funding?
Yes. 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 The annual budget is about $600,000. That funds 60 sensors throughout the state, in both the Cedar River as well as the Raccoon and the Des Moines River, and they're dispersed throughout the state. These sensors that give you real-time data. Well, I think that's a policy discussion that we're going to have as a board, and that other communities are going to need to discuss. I mean, ultimately, I think to the point is this is important that we continue this research, but I think one of the things that I'm going to be putting at the top of our lobbying list for the legislative session with our team of lobbyists that help lobby on behalf of counties is that this is really important funding, and we'd like to see it restored for the purposes of this project. So we will be asking the legislature to restore this funding or to try to find the money. I know they're going through their own budget challenges, but we want to work with them cooperatively to see if this funding can be restored so long-term that we have a sustainable source of funding and that residents of Iowa can feel confident that the University of Iowa has the funding it needs to do the vital research that it's doing. I'm sorry, the timeline? Oh, so they have until June of 2026 before there's any interruption. So from Lynn County and Johnson County, they will have time between now and June to decide if they can participate and at what level they can participate. So I was approached by Dr. Weber about the time we were releasing the CISRA report, and he was telling me this is going to be an ongoing challenge for the Flood Center, and that this was his top priority, was to maintain this funding. By the way, Dr. Weber is traveling today, but he is making himself available for any press inquiries today, and we can share that information with you. But the goal, I think the goal is to continue the work that they're doing and to not have any interruption in his service. I mean, I think we're paying close attention to nitrates. I think that's an important topic of discussion, and it's just in light of the watering bans that we experienced this year related to drinking water. I think we're also watching these algae blooms. They're a challenge for an organization like Waterworks, particularly if you would have drought and you would have high nitrates and your surface water becomes challenging to supply to a community that more than 600,000 residents are relying on this Central Iowa Waterworks. It's going to be a really important thing for not only local governments, but for the state of Iowa and for the welfare of all individuals in the state to have solutions for this problem. And I think that's what John's trying to do with his work. And I know he's enlisted the help of 13 counties upstream that are working directly with him to emulate the batch and build types of programs, the wetland wave programs, saturated buffer zones and cover crops. I think we've planted more than 27,000 acres of cover crops in upstream as well. And so this is a collaboration, and I think the important work that John does is he helps spread the word through the farming community. He's a trusted messenger, and he works cooperatively with farmers to implement these practices. And the more successful he is, the more likely other counties will adopt these measures. So this is a ripple that he's trying to impact by going upstream. Yeah, so I learned about the GoFundMe page today from Dr. Neil Hamilton today. Told me that there was a GoFundMe page, and I think they're going to continue to fund the work that they're trying to do from a grassroots advocacy standpoint. What we know is that residents are very interested in being involved. Some people want to invest their time and energy I think Rich has had volunteers that have collected his water samples for a number of years. We have residents that want to write checks to the Isaac Walden League or support GoFundMe pages, but I think the idea is that all of us can do something to make an effort to try to improve our water system and the quality of our water, and for that matter, recreation and health in our state. And so we encourage anybody that wants to be involved to either participate through water monitoring or through writing a check or volunteering if that's something they can do. Yes? No. There's no restrictions. This is this money has no strings attached other than the reporting which we've done for the distribution. Thank you for being here.
Sorry, one question. Are there plans to think about Polk County's efforts?
With
With its own water quality monitoring system?
Rich, you can talk about I think kind of what you're doing for ICON. I think that's pretty solid beefing up of the program, right?
It is. So we, at Polk County Conservation, we coordinate a couple of different monitorings. One is we do an internal and working with partners, with cities and with super volunteers and stuff like that. And we do twice a month on 70 sites across the county. And we've been doing that for 10 years. A lot of that is ecological. So we're looking at physical characteristics such as temperature and flow and stuff like that. And then we're looking at chemical like dissolved oxygen, nitrate, phosphorus, and things like that. So we got that going on. It's been going on for 10 years, great data stream. And then ICON. So we were approached by ICON 4 or 5 years ago and said, is the water clean? That's a very difficult question. Is it clear? Is it okay for public health? Is it okay for drinking water? So we narrowed down what clean meant for ICON, which is public safety, people getting in and enjoying our water bodies. And so we've been running the ICON water monitoring program now under contract from ICON for 4 years running, and we'll continue to. And most of our parameters that we're looking at there have to do with E. coli monitoring, so making sure that if there's risk for pathogens or whatever in the water, that's what we're looking for. And most of the time, in most of the areas, our water is very clean. Go splash, paddle, have fun.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thank you.